Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. So glad you're here because today we are unpacking something absolutely monumental. You know that feeling, right? That deep, burning desire to just completely overhaul your life, only to find yourself like 3 weeks later right back at square one? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, today we're diving into the ultimate strategy for success, the 1% rule for total transformation. And look, this isn't some cheesy life hack or a quick fix. We're talking about the fundamental, undeniable math of how real, lasting change actually happens. We're going to break down exactly how this rule works and how it literally guarantees a total transformation of your reality if you just follow the logic. So buckle up, because this is going to fundamentally shift how you approach your goals. So let's kick things off with a massive question. How do you change everything? Okay, picture a cinematic stickman in your head. Just a simple, hand-drawn character that represents, well, any of us. Now imagine this stickman is standing at the very bottom of a sheer, impossible 50-foot cliff. That cliff, that represents the massive goal you want to achieve. Building a business, mastering a language, getting totally fit. Whatever it is. The sheer scale of it is terrifying, right? If our little stickman tries to jump that 50-foot cliff in a single massive bound, what happens? They crash. They burn out. It's a complete fail. So the question is, how on earth can our stickman possibly conquer that impossible height without completely destroying themselves? Right, so let's get into section 1, the ultimate promise, total transformation. To really grasp how to achieve that true overarching transformation, we've got to understand why we usually fail in the first place. You see, almost all of us fall into the trap of the overnight overhaul. You know the one. It's that random burst of motivation on a Sunday night where you suddenly declare, I'm waking up at 4 a.m., running 10 miles, reading a whole book, and launching a startup tomorrow. It relies entirely on this massive, totally unsustainable spike in energy and willpower. And honestly, it's exhausting. It's a failing method. I mean, sure, it might work for a day or two, but eventually, the sheer gravity of that sudden shift just yanks you right back down. It leaves you stranded, frustrated, and thinking, well, I guess I just don't have what it takes. And it makes sense we feel that way, because the truth is, the desire to change everything can feel overwhelmingly huge. It is an incredibly heavy weight to carry around. When you look at the gigantic gap between where you are right now and that total transformation you want, that distance is paralyzing. It's that 50-foot cliff staring right back down at our stickman. Without the right strategy, that monumental desire doesn't actually motivate us. Actually, scratch that. It doesn't just fail to motivate us, it freezes us in our tracks. Our brains literally cannot process how to make that leap all at once. Okay, moving on to section 2, defining the 1% rule. 1%. I just want you to pause for a second and really let the smallness of that number sink in. Just 1%. It's this mind-bending truth that's been hiding in plain sight. The absolute key to changing everything, to actually scaling that impossible 50-foot cliff, is almost nothing. It is just a microscopic, almost unnoticeable daily effort. It's so small that it feels, incredibly easy. Honestly, almost too easy to actually work. But that is exactly where its hidden power lies. Let's formally define this so we're all on the exact same page here. The 1% rule is simply the principle of achieving total transformation through consistent, incremental progress. Let's bring back our stickman. Instead of trying to hero leap the entire cliff, imagine them holding up a tiny, unassuming little sign that just says 1%. Now imagine a bright light shining on that tiny sign, casting a colossal, awe-inspiring shadow all the way up that cliff face. That shadow represents the true potential of this rule. The action itself is incredibly small, but the result it projects over time, absolutely massive. So what we're doing here is trading the expectation of a massive, painful leap for a microscopic effort that directly leads to macroscopic results. We're replacing that impossible 50-foot jump with a simple 1-inch step forward. And here's the beauty of it. A 1-inch step doesn't require immense willpower. It doesn't trigger your brain's fear or fight or flight response. It completely bypasses all that resistance that usually stops you cold, allowing you to just easily step right into the process of transformation without even breaking a sweat on day one.
Which brings us to section 3, the mechanics of incremental progress.
This whole thing breaks down into a brilliantly simple progress loop. Step 1, start small. You strip away all the ego, all the grand expectations, and you just begin with an action so easy you literally can't say no, like reading just one paragraph of a book or doing 2 push-ups. Step 2, add just 1% effort. You don't double your output the next day, you just make it one tiny fraction better. Tomorrow, you read 2 paragraphs or do 3 push-ups. And then, the absolute linchpin of the entire system, step 3, repeat consistently. The magic isn't actually in the 1% itself, right? The magic is in the loop. It is the undeniable logic that doing a tiny thing every single day without fail is infinitely more powerful than doing a massive thing once a month. Let's visualize how this actually plays out over time. On day 1, you make a microscopic shift. And to be totally honest, you probably won't even notice a difference. You might even feel a little silly, kind of wondering, is this actually doing anything? But jump ahead to month 6. Momentum builds. That daily 1% compounding on itself means your progress curve is starting to aggressively bend upward. Those tasks that felt slightly challenging back in month 2, they're effortless now. Your entire baseline is shifted. And by year 1, you've achieved an entirely new reality. Those tiny, invisible shifts have logically accumulated and compounded to completely rewrite your situation. You're suddenly standing at the top of the cliff, and you barely even realized you were climbing.
And here is exactly why this approach is just so bulletproof. Let's walk through the logic of 1%. First up, it completely bypasses burnout. Because you're keeping the daily requirement microscopically low, you never deplete your willpower reserves. Second, it demands consistency over intensity. It actually rewires your brain to value showing up every single day rather than showing off occasionally. Third, it guarantees forward movement. Even on your absolute worst, lowest energy day, finding 1% of effort is almost always possible, meaning you never slide backward. And finally, when you combine all of that together, it makes change inevitable. It takes transformation from a distant hope and turns it into a mathematical certainty. It really is the definitive cure to the massive failure rate of those huge overnight overhauls we talked about earlier.
All right, let's wrap this up with our final section, achieving total transformation.
I want to bring our focus firmly back to the quote that really anchors this entire explainer. The 1% rule that changes everything. It's a bold statement, right? Almost audacious. But after walking through the mechanics together, we can clearly see the philosophical and mathematical argument behind it. This microscopic rule isn't just a neat little productivity trick. It is the ultimate catalyst for total transformation. It is the hidden force that takes the impossible and breaks it down into the inevitable. Which brings us right to the core thesis of our explainer today. Incremental progress is the only sustainable vehicle for total transformation. If you really want to change everything, you have to abandon the fantasy of the overnight overhaul. Monumental change simply does not require exhausting monumental daily effort. It demands something much quieter, but so much stronger. It requires an unwavering, stubborn commitment to that 1%. It's all about building a vehicle that won't just run out of gas halfway up the mountain. So as we bring this explainer to a close, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to carry with you. Think about it. What will your 1% be today? Don't think about the 50-foot cliff. Don't think about where you need to be a year from now. Just think about our cinematic stickman standing right there at the base of their goal. I want you to visualize yourself taking that very first, tiny, almost effortless step. What is one microscopic thing you can do right now, today, that moves you just 1% forward? Because that tiny step isn't just a step. It is the very beginning of a totally transformed life. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this incredible concept, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.